Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to serve as your worship associate this morning. Normally, more information about FirstU is available at the welcome table during our service. While the building is shut down due to COVID-19, you can contact us by email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Again, for more information, please contact us at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. After this service and future services, our regular hospitality hour has been replaced by a virtual get-together. If you'd like to join our virtual hospitality hour, you can find information in our weekly EUU or on our website, firstunitarianottawa.ca. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are a part of our community. Welcome, and we hope you come back again soon.
Thank you, Chris. Bonjour. Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Patricia Guthmann Haresch, minister of the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Although the doors to our building are closed to do our part in preventing the spread of disease, we still are a vibrant congregation with open minds, spirits, and hearts. This morning, I welcome you into my home and the homes of our music director, our director of religious exploration, and this morning's worship associate, Chris. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. It's a beautiful thing to think that even though we are in separate places, protecting ourselves and others by staying away from a crowd, here we are together online, listening, connecting, and soon singing. I hope this moment finds you well. A few more announcements. While the building is closed, staff are working remotely and are monitoring emails during work hours from home as they usually would. Phone calls will be checked less regularly, so do please email. As we won't be seeing each other in person, it is more important than ever to be signed up to receive the weekly email newsletter, the EUU. Check our Facebook page and our webpage for notices and updates. If you're not getting internet access right now, perhaps someone else could print off the EUU for you. Our online calendar is as full as ever. Friday's EUU included information regarding chalice groups, Zoom drop-in, youth check-ins, children check-ins, a religious exploration lesson with lots that was fun, Sunday morning forums, opportunities for helping in the community, and the Canadian Unitarian Council happenings like the upcoming annual general meeting and a cross-Canada Canadian Unitarian Council virtual Sunday service next week. So do check out all that information. Many of our committees and groups are using Zoom teleconferencing to connect. We continue to have basic and advanced trainings on Zoom, and you can also connect to Zoom gatherings by phone and needn't use a device. To learn more about connecting by phone to the virtual coffee hour that follows this service, it was in the EUU. And again, if you don't get the EUU because you don't have internet access, ask a friend and they'll let you know how to access Zoom conferencing by phone. To schedule a Zoom conference, please email our operations manager at OM as in me, R, at firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are having any trouble connecting with Zoom, please let us know, and we have a ready team to help you figure it out.
There were wind chimes in
I just love my mommy, so I've always had reason to celebrate Mother's Day. But I know that Mother's Day can be a tough day for many reasons. As we light the chalice this morning, before we do, I'm going to share a Mother's Day litany for all the mothers, including the mothers within each of us. I will read some lines, then say one line, and when I raise my hands up to you, that's my signal for you to repeat what I said. Got that, Will? Okay. So shall we practice? Blessed are the mothers of creation.
Blessed are the mothers of creation.
I think we're good. So on this Mother's Day, we wish to remember all those who have given birth and aided in creation. Blessed are the mothers of creation.
Blessed are the mothers of creation.
Let us remember all the mothers who have stayed up into the night, walking around the house, holding babies when they kept crying and wouldn't stop, or rocking sick toddlers in their arms. The mothers who read a favorite story twice a night for a year and then read it again when a little voice said, "Please, just one more time." Blessed are the mothers.
Blessed are the mothers.
Let us remember all the mothers who carried their child so tenderly within their womb, only to lose them before or shortly after birth. The mothers who gave birth to babies they'll never see. Adoptive and foster mothers and stepmothers, the mothers who took those babies and gave them homes. And single mothers raising children on their own. Blessed are the mothers.
Blessed are the mothers.
Let us remember all those who have chosen or were chosen by circumstances beyond their control not to raise children, those who give of themselves in other ways to the greater circle of humanity, creation, and the future. Blessed are those who have given of themselves.
Blessed are those who have given of themselves.
Let us remember the mothers whose hearts ache each time they see their child disappear out the door on the first day of grade school, of college, and when their children finally leave home. Let us also remember those mothers who feel guilty when they don't miss their children, and those who now may only visit their children at the graveside. Let us remember all the mothers who are learning how to let go. May they have strength.
May they have strength.
Yeah, I need that strength for when you go. Okay. Let us remember all the mothers whose children have gone astray, who can't find the words to reach them, and the children who can't find the words to say to their mothers. The mothers and children searching for ways to find forgiveness in their hearts after all these years. May they have peace.
May they have peace.
Let us remember all those who we called and thought of as mother, those still living and those no longer with us. Blessed are the mothers.
Blessed are the mothers.
In a poem to her mother, Unitarian Universalist May Sarton said, "And now her truth is given me to live." Let us be thankful for all those who in one way or another have given us life. May it be so, and Will, you can light the chalice. And let us sing the chalice song.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of how we'd like to live each day with love and truth helping lead the way.
Hey everyone, it's Nao, your DRE. Hope everyone is doing well on this Sunday. Today I'm going to share with you a story called Mother Bruce by Ryan T. Higgins. It's a really cute story. It brought a smile to my face, and I hope it does the same for all of you. Bruce was a bear who lived all by himself. He was a grump. He did not like sunny days. He did not like rainy days. He did not like cute animals. Bruce only liked one thing: eggs. He collected them from all over the forest. But Bruce did not eat eggs raw like other bears. Instead, he cooked them into fancy recipes he found on the internet. One day Bruce came along a recipe for hard-boiled goose eggs drizzled with honey salmon sauce. So he went out to get the ingredients. First, he caught a few salmon. Then he collected honey from a beehive. Bruce liked to support local businesses. Last, he went to Mother Goose's nest to pay her a visit. He wondered to himself, are these eggs free-range organic? At home, Bruce prepared the eggs for hard boiling, but the fire in the stove fizzled, so he went out to get some more wood. When he came back, he was met with an unwelcome surprise. "Mama, Mama, Mama!" Bruce became the victim of mistaken identity. Bruce wanted hard-boiled eggs, not goslings. He supposed he could settle for buttered goslings on toast. But for some reason, he had lost his appetite. Bruce scooped up the little geeses and stomped back to their nest, only to find Miss Goose had flown back south early. Bruce left the goslings there anyway and went back home. "Mama, Mama, Mama!" But he was followed. Bruce was very stern, and he said things like, "Go away," and "I am not your mother," and also, "I liked you better when you were eggs." He roared. Bruce was extra grumpy, and he could no longer take it, and he became a grump with the goslings. It didn't work. goslings always follow their mother, even if she is a he and he is a bear. Bruce was stuck with them. He tried to make the best of it. It was hard work. As the seasons passed, Bruce watched the goslings grow older. Annoying baby geese, stubborn teenage geese, boring adult geese. Then one fall afternoon, he saw other goose families flying south. Finally, he would be rid of these geese and he could take a long winter nap. Bruce explained migration to the geese, but they didn't listen. Bruce needed these geese to leave, but nothing worked. The geese would not leave Bruce alone. So Bruce decided to pack his bags and take his geese into town. They boarded a bus and migrated to Miami. Now every winter, Bruce and his geese head south together. They lay around the beach in tacky shirts, sipping ice-cold lemonade, while Bruce dreams of new recipes that don't hatch. Hope you enjoyed the story. Have a great Sunday. See you at coffee hour.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deirdre Kellerman. I am the music director here at First Unitarian. And our opening hymn that we're going to be singing together today is called May There Always Be Sunshine. And it's really topical for our service today, which is both celebrating Mother's Day as well as the peace movement. The lyrics are very simple. May there always be sunshine. May there always be blue skies. May there always be Mama. May there always be me. And what is special about this piece is that it was written by a little 4-year-old boy in Russia. And there's a little bit of argument, debate over when exactly it was written. But it has become widely regarded as a peaceful protest song, especially within the Soviet Union peace movement. So we've added a few verses that are different from the original. So if you know this piece, you may be surprised by some of the lyrics we're singing today, but we're also singing the original. So join me in singing May There Always Be Sunshine.
May there always be sunshine. May there always be blue sky. May there always be Mama. May there always be me. May there always be stories. May there always be music. May there always be Papa. May there always be me. May there always be friendship. May there always be sharing. May there always be kindness. May there always be me. May there always be sunshine. May there always be blue skies. May there always be Mama. May there always be me.
This is the time in the service when we are drawn closer to the heart of love at our centers and hold those both near and far, loved ones and strangers, in our hearts. Hymn 127 in our hymnal comes from a William Blake poem called On Another's Woe. It comes to my mind this morning. Can I see another's woe and not be in sorrow too? Can I see another's grief and not seek for kind relief? Can I see a falling tear and not feel my sorrow's share? Can a father see his child weep, nor be with sorrow filled? Can a mother sit and hear an infant groan, an infant fear? No, no, never can it be. Never, never can it be. Today, I place stones in the water that some of you have asked me to place for those you are thinking of, joys and concerns. A stone for all those who are trying to remain patient with practicing social isolation. Hang in there. A few stones. I can't hold enough for our 30 people who are calling 300 people every week. Thank you so much. A stone. Again, maybe a few. For those who are making deliveries for some of our people, and for those we discover are in need. One more stone. A stone for the troubled world today, and for all the joys that still occur, the sunrises and the sunsets. May all be well. May we hold these joys and sorrows of this gathered community in our hearts and join together in a moment of silence. Let us be still together.
This morning's reading is When They Sleep by Norwegian poet Rolf Jacobson. All people are children when they sleep. There's no war in them then. They open their hands and breathe. In that quiet rhythm heaven has given them. They pucker their lips like small children and open their hands halfway. Soldiers and statesmen, servants and masters. The stars stand guard, and a haze veils the sky. A few hours when no one will do anybody harm. If only we could speak to one another then, when our hearts are half-open flowers. Words like golden bees would drift in. Teach me the language of sleep.
I guess you could say thank you to all the mothers for our setting aside this day each year as this Mother's Day, yes? But it was really 3 main women who we can thank. Now, I'm going to sing you a song. It's a hymn from the Civil War, and I want you to guess. Do you think it was one of the 2 Methodist women, or do you think it was the 3rd Unitarian woman who penned this wartime song. It's from the 1860s. Maybe it's familiar to you. I'm not sure how many Canadians know this song. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Do you know it? Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. And then this is a verse I wasn't quite familiar with before. This is the last verse. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Did you guess? Was it the Methodist or the Unitarian? Believe it or not, it was a Unitarian woman, Julia Ward Howe. She wrote those new words to what had already been a Civil War anthem for the Union soldiers fighting against slavery, John Brown's Body. And Battle Hymn of Republic that she wrote became quite a hit, just in the North, on the one side. It was in response to a challenge by her Unitarian minister, the Reverend James Freeman Clark. As an unofficial hymn, the Union soldiers had sung John Brown's Body, who fought against slavery. But tell me if you thought these words might be like fun and uplifting. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. Reverend Clark felt there could be more uplifting words to the tune. So Julia's was a pro-war poem because at the time she wrote it, Julia and her husband Samuel were abolitionists, champions of a war that was a just fight, the fight against slavery. She once said, "Any religion which will sacrifice a certain set of human beings for the enjoyment or aggrandizement or advantage of another is no religion." At the time she wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic, she could write in good conscience, "Let us die to make men free," because she felt that was the right thing to do. Yet, in her travels as a public speaker, Julia saw the horrible effects of war. Not only soldiers that died from battle or disease, or who were maimed for life, but the suffering of the families, widows, and orphans of soldiers on both sides of the war. Also the destruction and economic devastation of the war once it was over. After the Civil War in the U.S. ended with the rise of the Franco-Prussian War in 1870, Julia took up a new cause, peace, and came up with the idea of a Mother's Day, or a Mother's Peace Day. Julia was inspired by another woman, Anna Reeves Jarvis. In 1858, Anna was a young homemaker and wife of a Methodist minister turned community activist. She lived in the Appalachian Mountains in the States, where people were often impoverished. Anna had no formal training in matters of health or medicine, but she became concerned about the health and sanitary conditions in the small Appalachian towns she lived in as she and her husband moved from church to church. The Jarvises had lost 4 of their own children to childhood diseases, and this fueled Anna's passion to do what she could do to save other parents from what she and her husband had suffered. Anna began to organize mothers' work days to raise money for medicine, hire women to work for families where the mothers suffered from tuberculosis. They also inspected bottled milk and food to make sure they weren't contaminated. She organized women throughout the Civil War to work for better sanitary conditions and tend to the wounded on both sides, the North and the South. Once the war was over, she began to reconcile the Union and the Confederate soldiers, or actually the neighbors who were now again living side by side, who had at the time been enemies at the time of the war. She convened meetings to persuade men to lay aside their hostilities. So this is who inspired Julia Ward Howe. She called for women to rise up in 1870 and oppose war in all forms. She wanted women to come together, whether they had favored one side or the other of the Civil War, or supported one political party or another. She wanted women to recognize what they had held in common above what divided them, and commit themselves to finding peaceful resolutions to conflicts. Certainly, the memory was still so vivid for many women of the effects of war, the loss of their husbands and sons, relatives, or having them come back forever changed physically or emotionally. In 1870, Julia penned her declaration, and in 1872 called for an official Mother's Day of Peace, a Mother's Peace Day. This is what she wrote. This is her declaration. Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be of water or by tears. Say firmly, we will not have questions answered by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of a devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword of murder is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each bearing after his own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and humanity, I earnestly ask that a general Congress of women without limit of nationality be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient, and the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. For the next 30 years, many Americans did celebrate a Mother's Day of Peace, and they celebrated on June 2nd. However, the daughter of Anna Jarvis, remember Mother's Work Day, Anna Jarvis, the woman who had inspired Julia Ward Howe, Anna Jarvis's daughter, also named Anna Jarvis, started her own crusade to found a day for women in honor of her mother after her mother died. The first such Mother's Day was celebrated in West Virginia in 1907 in the church where the elder Anna Jarvis had taught Sunday school. I understand that by 1911, it started to be celebrated in Canada as well. And eventually it spread to 45 states in the U.S., beginning in 1912. In 1914, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson declared the first National Mother's Day in the U.S., always falling on the second Sunday in May. And over the years, I don't know, somehow, Mother's Day, that began as a holiday that commemorated women's public activism, turned into a day, as stated by Ruth Rosen, turned into a holiday of commercialism and platitudes, celebrating a mother's devotion to her family. A fine thing to celebrate, mind you, but not one that reflects the struggles of women who are trying to make a difference, not just for their own family, but for all children and families, to make a difference in all the world. Before saying a little bit more about Mother's Day, I want to tell you something of this Unitarian woman, Julia Ward Howe. A woman born into a more restricted social context, how she became an activist. Her story isn't that much different than any other white woman in the 19th century who was privileged and educated and became engaged in the anti-slavery and peace movements, eventually fighting for the right to vote and other rights of women. I contrast her life to mine. I was born and bred during the rise of the feminist movement throughout the 60s and 70s. In my household, 5 things were required, whether you were a boy or girl. School, attending our UU congregation, piano lessons, picking up another instrument in high school, and going to college. Out of 4 children, there were 3 girls, and it was imagined that we would do it all, right? Find a satisfying profession and raise children. But Julia Ward Howe was born into a different era. She was born in 1819 in New York City, the 4th of 7 children. Her father was from a distinguished Rhode Island family and a Wall Street banker, so her family had considerable financial resources. Nothing was spared on Julia's education, consisting of tutors and governesses, but it was the kind of education that was for the proper girl, for a young lady raised in a strict Episcopalian Calvinist home. She had piano and voice lessons and learned French and Spanish in her early years, then Italian, Greek, and Hebrew. But Julia envied her brothers, who went off to boarding school and were learning chemistry, mathematics, and other such subjects. She begged them to teach her everything that they learned. As a young woman, Julia studied poetry, philosophy, languages. She published essays. According to the late minister and historian Dorothy Mae Emerson, Julia was complex and talented in a time when women were expected to be mostly decorative. While visiting Boston at age 22, in the circles she traveled with, poet and Unitarian Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and Unitarian politician Charles Sumner took Julia Ward to visit the New England Institute for the Blind that later became the Perkins Institute, to meet Laura Bridgman, a phenomenal blind-deaf student of Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe. While they were there, Howe rode up on a black horse, made quite an impression. A nobler rider on a noble steed, Julia remembered. 18 years her senior, this pioneer educator of children with multiple handicaps was indeed noble. He had won international acclaim as a hero for his dashing exploits in the Greek Revolution. Julia and Samuel married 2 years after they met. After settling in their home near the Perkins Institute, the intelligent and complex Julia felt isolated from the life she had previously known. It's interesting to note, I think, that one of the founders of Mother's Day felt ill-prepared for being a housewife, and besides, she found it rather unfulfilling. Her husband was busy with charities and causes, making connections with like-minded folks in the Boston community, leading Samuel and Julia to make friends with prominent Unitarians. This, along with her own reading and studies, led Julia to shed her Episcopal upbringing and become a Unitarian. Julia's mother had died when she was 5. Her father died before she met Samuel Howe, and just to illustrate women's position in that day, of course, a woman couldn't manage her own inheritance, so it was controlled by her brother rather than by her husband, but apparently neither of the men did a good job managing her inheritance. Although her husband was politically and religiously liberal, Samuel disapproved of Julia's writings and forbade her to publish further articles which cut her off from what had been a very rewarding part of her life. Julia gave birth to 6 children and dedicated herself to their upbringing and remained deeply devoted to them, and eventually devoted as well to her grandchildren. Even with tending a house full of children, Julia turned inward and started her own self-education of philosophy and poetry, and soon was writing again and was publishing secretly. But her authorship was soon revealed, and her husband's disapproval continued. The year the Civil War began, Julia's Unitarian minister, the Reverend James Freeman Clark, invited her to speak at a review of troops in Washington, D.C. This was the first time she spoke publicly. Soon after that came Reverend Clark's invitation to spruce up the John Brown's Body song with the lyrics that became the famous Battle Hymn of the Republic. The hymn was a hit on the north side of the fight, and she began her public speaking career. After the Civil War, her interests became trying to organize an international peace movement and women's rights. She also continued to publish. Reporters loved to interview her for her witty comments, and I have just one to share. Her advice to one visitor was, "Study Greek, my dear. It's better than a diamond necklace." Julia Ward Howe died in 1910 at the age of 91, 10 years shy of being able to witness women receiving the right to vote in the United States. A public memorial service was held at Boston Symphony Hall, at which hundreds of people were turned away. More than 4,000 attendees joined together in singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Given the challenges of life of Julia Ward Howe and the causes she worked so hard for, Ruth Rosen, a professor writing about the origins of Mother's Day, suggests it would be more fitting for us to celebrate Mother's Day with rallies in the streets, with flowers instead of flowers and cards. She notes that, like Julia, many middle-class women in the 19th century believed that they bore a special responsibility as actual or potential mothers to care for the casualties of society and turn their country into a civilized nation. They played a leading role in the abolitionist movement to end slavery. In the following decades, they launched successful campaigns against lynching and consumer fraud and battled for improved working conditions for women, protection of children, public health services, and social welfare assistance to the poor. To the activists, the connection between motherhood and the fight for social and economic justice seemed evident. By 1914, when Congress declared the second Sunday in May to be Mother's Day, the growing consumer culture, as Ruth Rosen had described, had successfully redefined women as consumers for their families. Politicians and businessmen eagerly embraced the idea of celebrating the private sacrifices made by individual mothers. As the magazine The Florist Review, the industry's trade journal, noted bluntly, this was a holiday that could be exploited. Reverend Julianne Silberman Bunn notes this: Julia Ward Howe had it right. Motherhood has nothing to do with pedestals and everything to do with love, justice, nonviolence, and peace. In Howe's original conception, Mother's Day was designed to draw mothers out of their kitchens and parlors into the public arena, to unite women as she could in the common cause of protecting the world's children from war. As Julia Ward Howe put it, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. Mother's Day was to be about keeping hate out and holding love up as a model of all relationships. How might we follow Julia's footsteps today? What should we rally for in the streets, 2 meters or 6 feet apart, with our masks on, yes? Let us make this day, let's make every day, a day to celebrate the dignity and worth of all living beings. As Silberman Bunn suggests, to celebrate all loving relationships and to see that everyone is someone's treasure, that we are all family. As she said, arise then, whereby the great human family can live in peace. May it be so.
This is the time in our service that we usually accept the offering. To find out how to keep up your pledge or make a donation, you can contact our finance manager or visit the FirstU website. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another.
Hi again, everyone. Our closing hymn today is a song that comes out of Power of Song. It is a hymnal that was created by the Don Heights Unitarian congregation. And it's a really fantastic resource of contemporary Unitarian hymns. And the hymn that we're going to be singing today is Words and Music by Sheila White, who is the music director at Don Heights. I've adapted it just a little bit for us to be singing today. And it's a chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus type of song. So if you find all of it a lot to learn, that's okay. You can just sing the chorus or you can just listen, whatever you're comfortable with. But enjoy Mother Inside.
Inside our heads, treasure and to hold, to care for young and old, a guardian of children, a safe port in a storm. So gentle is the harbor between her loving arms. There's a mother inside of all of us, inside our heads, inside our hearts. There's a mother inside of all of us, inside our heads, inside our hearts. To fight against injustice, a candle is my sword. For reason and compassion, a touch, a spoken word, a sure and true companion when everything goes wrong. There's a mother inside of all of us, inside our heads, inside our hearts. There's a mother inside of all of us, inside our heads, inside our hearts. There's a mother inside of all of us, inside our heads, inside our hearts.
For our closing words, and as we extinguish the chalice, these words from scientist and inventor George Washington Carver, my hero, because he's who brought us peanuts and peanut butter. How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, intolerant of the weak and the strong, because someday you will have been all of these. Let us sing, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Cool vida spori de justiça, ternurimo, cielum potuo, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
Go in joy, go in peace, go in love, and may all be well.
Now that COVID's roaring through, we really miss you. As each week goes by, it's true, we really miss you. We hope you're safe and cozy there there in your room. Don't let this isolation bring you to gloom. Stuck inside with no relief can be a trial. Though you want to gnash your teeth, you've got to smile. So stay home, wash your hands, do all they tell us to do, so that soon we'll be singing again.